Crochet this with me. We're gonna do this whole square. Heart levels 40, interlocking crochet. 2 layers of mesh, 2 videos, part 1, part 2, from the center, out. Welcome to part 2. We're gonna finish the square now. You only got to around here somewhere. Let's go. Starting round 25. Odd numbers always gonna be with our main color, the black. It says chain 3 in back. We are in the back, we've already done that. We are good to go. Then we're going to do 9 stitches in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is at the top of the box, 8 is in the middle of the box, 9 is at the other corner at the top of the box. Then we have 2 in the front. This little black section is kind of solid-ish. You can still see the mesh dots right through it. The corner stitch is going to be a back one again. And usually when it's hard to find, I just use the window. I use the chain 2 space, or the second chain space, when it's easy. When it's hard, I just use the window. So putting our lining, everything up, that's kind of what we got. Then we turn. And of course, we're going to start with our corner. 1, 2. Then we go into that window because I was too lazy to find the second chain. 2 stitches in the front. And we have 19 in the back. It'll go all the way across until you get to this dark section again. You'll put this stitch back in the front. All of these here are all in the back. Again, you can just use the visual cues, but I really recommend counting, especially if you're finding that your stitch count gets messed up, because that's how we double check our making no mistakes. But if you're not counting, that's okay too. There's going to be 19, I don't know if I said that out loud yet, 19 back stitches. This is 18, 19. Then we'll have 2 in the front. And that corner stitch in the back. So that's the side. Finishing up round 25, we need to start, of course, with our corner, chain 2, and the stitch in the back that's going into the same window that we just used. Then we have 2 in the front. And we only have enough stitches to meet our row here. We only have enough stitches to do 9 in the back. This is number 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. Before we join together, we need to make sure our accent color tails are at the front. Then we can slip stitch it to that first chain 3 that we had made, and we will move on to round 26. The first thing round 26 tells you is what to do with these main color tails. They're going to stay in the back, so that's fine. Then it tells us chain 3 is in the front. It's in front of the black layer. Then we will have 4 stitches in the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to put 2 in the back. Goes right above that plus sign. We're actually making the bottom of another box. Just like we have a box here, now there's going to be one here. We'll put 1 in the front. Then we've got 4 in the back again. 1, 2, 3, 4 is hiding already behind the layer. Our last 2 stitches, 1 in the front, and the corner stitch is in the back. Definitely going to run out of my pretty color, my pretty purple. Corner stitch and then a back stitch in the same spot that we've been working. Then we've got 1 in the front, goes right beside, whoops, there we go. If everything is lined up, you kind of have a box here that goes right beside that. Then we have 4 in the back. We're going to put 1 in the front. It goes right between the plus sign and the box down here, but it will be making the side of a box. Here's the bottom of the box, 2 back stitches. And then we have 8 to go along the front here. We're going to make sure that you're not going into the black one. Keep your finger between the layers if that helps. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're making a box again, so put 2 in the back. One in the front. 4 in the back. The next stitch goes in the front, and the final stitch goes in that back corner. Pull everything to the back. Now do it again and again. Finishing off round 26, we are going to do our corner, chain 2. We're going to put 1 in the back, one in the front, Then we have 4 in the back. Oops. One in the front. Two in the back. And then we only have enough space for 3 in the front before we reach the beginning again. We join it here. The black one is not being entangled because it sits beside it, if you remember. So that is how it is. The black on this side, the colored one is over here. You can't really see this row because it's kind of hiding under there, but we're done. Round 26. We're going to do round 27. We're using the main color. We've done our chain 3. It's already in the back. The next stitch is going to be also in the back. And we are looking at those brackets. Back front is what it's trying to tell you. So 1 in the back, 1 in the front. And then you repeat the bracket. So you just go to the beginning, it says 1 in the back, 1 in the front. Then we have 1 in the back again. Oops, I kind of missed the stitch. Let's try again. And 6 in the front. Three, 4, 5, 6. Then we have 2 in the back. The first one is here. The next one is our weird corner spot, so you can grab that second chain or you can just grab the whole window. Chain 1 because you finished the stitch. Then we turn it. The asterisk telling us to repeat this side 3 times. I'll show you it once. We start with our corner. 1, 2 chains. Then we're going to have 2 stitches in the back. The first one is going in the same spot that you just used. The next one is going behind here. We're going to have 6 in the front. That is 6th stitch here. Then we have brackets again. The brackets are telling us to do 1 stitch in the back, 1 stitch in the front twice. So we're going to go back, front, and then we're going to read the brackets a second time. Back, and front. We then have 3 stitches in the back. Can kind of move this whole flap out of the way. It's not important to count the windows at this point. We do need to count the windows when we're ready to do the next stitch. So we do 3 in the back. Then when we're bringing it back to do the front again, that's when you're going to want to make sure there was 3 windows that you are skipping because you use them in the back. And then the 4th one here is where we're going to go in the back again. And we are looking at those brackets if you have the pattern in front of you. So 3 in the back, then we have front, back, front, back. Six in the front. Then we'll have 2 more in the back. So that is the side. You're going to repeat this side instructions for this side and this side. And then I'm going to see you here to finish this half row. Okay, to finish round 27, we're going to start with our corner, 2 chains. Then we do 2 back stitches. Next one comes through here. So this was the first square, the second square is here. Whoopsie doops. Then we have 6 in the front. We're back at those brackets that are going to tell us to repeat it. Back, front, back, front. There's 1 more back stitch to be done. And then before we slip stitch joining it, we need to make sure our accent color tail, the working loop, and the yarn that goes to the skein needs to be at the front. Then we can join. Round 28, we'll now be using our accent color. We're going to start by keeping the big ball of mess out of the way. I'm totally going to run out of yarn. It's okay. We'll deal with that later. We are going to start by keeping our main color tails in the back. Our first instruction here, chain 3, is already in the front. Then the next stitch is also in the front. So this is the window that you would have been putting those main color tails through if they had been in the front. But because he's in the back, he's already hiding back there, no problems. Then we have 2 back stitches. They're going to go on either side of this because we're making another plus sign and a box. You can see that's starting here. So we got 1, 2. Then we have 4 in the front. Then we have 7 in the back. If you don't want to count, it just goes all the way to the corner, but I do recommend counting because I still, even to this day, will sometimes completely miss a stitch. You just reach down and you grab the wrong post and suddenly you've missed one. So it's good to count. You can just bring this whole flap down until you get to the point where your black and your color yarn is meeting, because then you have to make sure that you're not moving the windows into the wrong direction. So you can keep the flap down mostly. You need to put it back up to make sure that you are still behind it in the right window. And then the 6th stitch here is in this window. And then the 7th one is in the last window. So this is where you can grab the 2nd chain space, or you can just grab the whole chain 3 corner spot. We're going to turn it. We're going to start with our corner. Corner means chain 2. And it's the opposite. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to start with 7 in the back. It's more important to count because you don't have the same visual cue now for these 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then if you put everything back up, you'll see this was where we're going to make a plus sign. This is where we're going to make a box. So we need each side of the box and 2 in the middle. That's the 4 in the front. It's dividing this section of dark with this box. I don't know if that helps. You should let me know in the comments if those sort of comments help you figure out where to place your stitches, or if I just am giving you too much random information and it's distracting. Or maybe you don't really listen to me, which means you're probably not going to tell me in the comments because you're not hearing me ask you. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm saying sometimes. Okay, anyway, we did 7 in the back, 4 in the front. Now we're going to do 2 in the back. That'll let the plus sign show up. Then we're going to have 2 in the front. And this is the middle of the side. So it's a mirror image, and now we're going to be going back the other direction. If you were reading it this way, now you can read it back. I just write the whole row out, so you don't really have to worry about that. That's what I mean. Is it too much information, or do you like knowing that sort of thing? We're going to do 2 in the back because this is the plus sign. We need to show the little arms. Then we have 4 in the front. It's going on the outside of the box, dividing the plus sign in the box. Then it's going on the inside of the box because we don't need a line going through the box. And still again inside the box. Then we go on the outside of the box so that you can see the difference between the box and the dark spots. On this side here, we're going to put 7 in the back, just like we had the first half when we had started. So that's why the video, I think some of it might be redundant. I like to be thorough. I've had complaints at not showing enough before. It'd be great to know that this is too much information or just the right amount of information, helps you, doesn't help you, whatever. So tell me, please, tell me. Plus I get bored of talking to myself. Just saying. The live videos are more fun because I get to talk to people while I'm crocheting, but the video quality is so poor and it's very distracting talking to people while I crochet. So I don't do as well at the actual crocheting. So pre-recording it is better. This is what we've got. That's the side. I'm going to do it a couple more times and see you at the other side. Finishing up round 28, we are still using our pretty color, our accent color. Maybe yours aren't the same as mine. Mine is pretty and the other one is just black. It's boring. Except for it looks good with the contrast, right? Oh, I should say it out loud, even though you've been doing it for probably 3 of the 4 sides already. We did our corner. Now we're going to have 7 in the back. 1, 2, 3. 4. 5. 6. And 7. Then we're going to have 4 in the front. So we put our flap back up, make sure everything is lining up. You're going to be in front here. Bring everything to the front, of course. Stitch number 1. 2. 3. 4. Then we only have space for 2 in the back. It's right behind the plus sign. Well, it's not a plus sign yet. It's going to be a plus sign. And then it tells us to join. So the black yarn is already dealt with at the beginning of the round, and that means we just need to join it at this point. Then we can move on to round 29 using our black, the main color. The first thing it's going to tell us, of course, is chain 3 and back. We did chain 3 at the end of the round. It is in the back. Double check that you're in the right spot, then you're good to go. We're gonna start with some brackets. There are brackets and then there are brackets again. Don't be scared, it's not so scary. The first bracket says 1 in the back, 1 in the front, repeat it twice. So we're gonna start here in the back. It's really this window, it's at the tip of that plus sign. 1 in the back and 1 in the front. That's, you've completed the bracket once. Now you just do it again. 1 in the back and 1 in the front. Then we move on to the next set of brackets. The instructions are different. It says do 1 in the back. Okay, we can do that, right? Then we're going to do 4 in the front. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. To repeat this bracket, we're ignoring the brackets that we had for these instructions. We're just repeating this bracket, and it says do 1 in the back and do 4 in the front. So we did it once, now we're doing it a second time. These are the 4 in the front. 1, 2, 3. The fourth one is in the corner. When it's easy like this to find the stitches, I do tend to use that second chain space where I go under the actual loops. I kind of just, I do it when it's easy. When it's harder to find them, I just pick the whole window. So that's it. Now you finished the brackets again. So brackets here, 2 different sets of instructions. Now we turn it. Of course, we have to start with our corner stitch, which means chain 2. That means 3 in the corners, just a reminder, because you've always do a double crochet in a chain. You're adding 2 more chains for the corner. And the brackets are just reversed. We're going to start with 4. They are in the front. This is the first one that you're using. It's the same spot. It's probably the one that's tricky to find. Not because it's hard to see, but just because you forget which spot you're supposed to be using. So just keep everything lined up to find that the first one goes here. The next one It's here. This is 3. 4. My hands are not gliding today with the yarn. It is so hot. It's over 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. We don't have air conditioner, and I had to turn the fan off because it was too noisy for my video. Whine. Anyway, back to the crocheting. So we did 4 in the front, and this bracket says do 4 in the front and then 1 in the back. That's this one here. He's going to be in the back. Make sure you yarn over. Pick this one here. And then we repeat this instructions because this bracket is times 2. So to put 4 in the front again, got 1, 2, 3. The fourth one is really the side of a box. You can see this is where we're making a box. Just like here, we had a box and a plus, a box and a plus. This was 4 in the front. Then we're going to put 1 in the back. So that was the brackets. You repeat it twice. It says 4 in the front, 1 in the back, then repeat it, 4 in the front, 1 in the back. Now when you did this side, you had another set of brackets that was saying back, front. But because it gets interrupted here, it works for the half side, but it doesn't put it in brackets here. But technically you are doing front, back. It's just that the next 3 would be in the back. So that's why there's no brackets. If that's too confusing, just ignore what I said. Just follow my crochet. You can do it. We're going to do 1 in the front. We're going to do 1 in the back. It's on the arm of the plus sign. The 1 in the front again is making the plus sign look like a plus sign right in the middle of him. And then we have 3 in the back to get to the next plus sign. So this is the middle of our side, and that would be mirrored from this. And 1 in the back goes on the edge of the plus sign. Then this is our very center stitch. It's the very middle. And then we're doing it all the same again. Arm of the plus sign, the front of the plus sign, 1 in the back, because that's the plus sign showing up. So that was our brackets, 4, 1, 4, 1. Then we have front, back, front, 3 in the back. Now we're going to do front, back, front, and then we'll have our brackets again to finish off. The brackets this time, after we finish this front stitch, the brackets say do 1 in the back and 4 in the front. One, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to repeat that, starting at the 1 in the back. Then we'll have 4 in the front. It gets you right to the corner. You can go in the window, or you can pick up the second chain. And that's the side. Now you're going to repeat it for 2 sides. I'll see you when we're joining it. Finishing up round 29, we're going to start, of course, with our corner, 2 chains. Then we have the brackets telling us to do 4 stitches in the front and then 1 stitch in the back, repeating it 2 times. So that's stitch number 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front. Then we get 1 in the back, We're going to repeat it. So we got 4 in the front. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 stitch in the back. That's finishing our bracket section. Then we have new brackets. It works when you're doing the half, that front back front back. It doesn't work when you're doing the full side. So there is a slight difference in the way it's written, but it's creating the same image. So we've got brackets telling us to do this twice. We'll go front back and then we'll do it again. So this is the one that's in the back. Now this accent color tail is going to be in the way. We have to make sure it's in the right spot. For this round, it says to keep them in the front, tail, and working yarn before we do our join. Moving on to round 30 with our accent color. The first thing we need to know is what to do with this tail, because of the way it's always lined up like this. These ones are going to stay in the back this time, no problem. Our chain 3 is in the front, and our first stitch is also in the front. So we just basically ignoring the accent or the main color tails, these black ones. We're just ignoring them essentially. And we actually have 4 stitches in the front. So that was number 1. This here beside the plus sign is 2. This is number 3. And this is where some people get confused. They're counting to 4 and they look back and they go, oh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. But this counts as chain 3. Chain 3 in front plus 1, 2, 3, and our 4th stitch here. Then we're going to put 2 in the back. It's behind the box. That way you can see the top of the box. One in the front to break up this dark section and these little boxes. Got to keep them separate. Then we're going to put 2 more in the back. Two in the front. This part that we had put that black stitch behind, that gives us access to make a box sort of in the front here. It's actually going to be a heart, but right now it sort of looks like a box, right? We got 3 sides. Looks like a box. It'll turn into a heart. Then we are going to go right to the corner here with 4 in the back. So you can bring this flap down. You can see 1, 2, 3, and the 4th stitch goes in the corner. Chain 1 to finish your stitch. That's what it looks like. We're going to turn our work, starting with the corner, which is 2 more chains. Then we'll have 4 stitches in the back. You have to remember this is where you had just gone, and that's where the first stitch also goes. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is also, because this is round 30, you'll see my little stitch markers. I put them on the colored rounds every 10 rows. So this is 10, this is 20. On this colored corner, I'm going to put another one. It doesn't matter which color to me. Maybe you're organized enough to remember by color. I just know that this is 30. That way, if I come back to it, I know where I am. I don't have to count every single one. I just count 10, 20, 30. After our 4 in the back, we are going to bring 2 to the front. You can line it up. It's these little, this will be the bottom. There's 2 windows here. If you're having trouble still lining it up, you can also count your windows on the black ones. There's 1 hole, 2, 3, 4 holes that were ignored. So the next hole is in the front. Then we're going to go in the back again 2 times. One in the front, it is separating the dark section from this little box picture. 2 in the back to make the box show up. And then we have 8 in the front. It covers the whole section until you get to another box. So that's the 8. Now we're going to put 2 in the back again for the top of the box to be visible. One in the front. Two in the back. Two in the front. That's going to be making a kind of a heart again. And then 4 in the back to get you to the corner again. So you can put the flap down if you like. I'm running out of yarn. My pretty yarn is over. It was a random skein that was given to me, and it didn't even have a label on it, but I definitely know that it is Red Heart. It is acrylic, and it was a pretty large skein, but I have now, well, basically run out. That's all I've got. So I'll have to be adding another color on the outside of my square here. I'm not sure what color to use yet. I'm sure I'll think of something. There we go. That's what this side is going to look like. Do it round and round, and I'll meet you over here. Finishing up round 30. We're going to, of course, start with our corner, 2 chains, and then our first stitch is in that same spot. We have 4 in the back. So this is number 1, 2, 3, 4. Putting this flap back up. The 2 stitches that go in the front are on here. The first window, 1, 2, then we've got 2 in the back. They go in these 2 windows, but we're going behind the windows. One in the front to separate that box from this dark corner. Oops, my yarn split there. There we go. Then we're going to put 2 in the back that goes behind the box so that you can see the outline of the box. And then because this is our final side, we were doing 8 in the front over here. Now there's only room left for 3. On the side of the box and then on either side of that plus sign. My yarn is sticking to my fingers today. It is just so hot. does not slide, it does not glide. Everything is sweaty and hot. I hope you're not offended. I used the word sweat. You shouldn't say that on TV. Am I on TV? Anyway, join. Join. Here we go, right in the window. You can find the second chain if you'd prefer. That's how I like to do it. 1, 2, 3. Switch to my little stitch marker. Round 31 using our main color. The first thing it's going to tell us is that our chain 3 is in the back. We already know that it's in the back. That's a double check to make sure we're in the right place. We will deal with this at the end before we join. For now, we're just going to do 6 in the back. This is stitch number 4 on top of the box. 5 is also on top of the box. And 6 is still on top of the box. Then we're going to switch to front stitches. We're going to do 2 in the front. And then we're going to put 1 in the back. We're going to put 4 in the front. We're going to start here into that little box that you had created. It's actually a heart. You see how the heart does this? That's what we're creating here. 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4. Then we have 1 stitch in the back and 1 in the front. We have quite a flap here. Make sure it's lined up. You can't go through any of these. You have to make sure you're going through the right window. So to line them up, if you keep this on top, this spot here was in the first window, then it's the second window, the third window. The fourth window, that's where we're going to join. We're going to go behind here, leaving the corner available for the corner again. So that's where you're lining things up. It's going to be this corner gap right beside it, grabbing this stitch. Bring it to the back, of course, for a back stitch. And then the front stitch, technically it's using this window and the corner 3 chains. I'm going to grab my second chain because that's the middle one. It's the cornerist, the most cornerist. I don't know what the words are. The cornermost stitch. Chain 1 because you finished the stitch. Turn our work. This little stitch marker, he is taking care of my count. That's the 30th row. So I'm just going to bring him in here. I'm pretty sure he might flop back out, but that's okay. We're going to start with our corner, 1, 2. Then we're going to put 1 in the front. Now you have to follow this along. This was the last stitch you did was right here. That's the one you're going to use, 1 in the front. So technically, I guess this should be in the corner window. There we go. That makes it more sense, although he might just pop back out. The next stitch, oh, we got a chain 1. The next stitch is going to be behind. So make sure you're looking, this is the corner window. We're going into the next one to bring 1 stitch behind. You don't want anything to get twisty. You can get your stitch count all correct, but if you've used the wrong window, things are still wonky and it doesn't work. Then we are going to do, what did we do? 1 in the front, 1 in the back. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front to get us to this little, it's going to be a heart. It looks like a box right now, but it's a heart. Fourth stitch goes right in there. 1 in the back because that's how the heart gets shown. Then we'll have 2 in the front. This is kind of like a dark corner. It's like stepping down. That's what we're going to line it up with. 1 and 2. And then you can count or you can use your visual cues. We're going to have 13 in the back. We want this colored to be shown. So we're going to join. Here will be our front stitch again. It's the other side where this dark stuff is. There's 13 back stitches here. On top of the box. 1, 2, 3, behind this plus sign area. 4, 5 would be the top of the plus sign, but we're going to hide behind the colored stuff. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we're behind this box again for 11, 12, 13 on the other corner of the box. Then we've got 2 in the front. One in the back. 4 in the front. Our back stitch, again, you're going to want to make sure your windows are all lined up. You can count from this direction, or you can say there's an end one. That'll be our corner. So the very next one, did I yarn over? Yes, I did. That's the stitch we want to use. 1 in the back, and the final one is in the front. That's the side. It's getting big. It doesn't really fit in my camera. It's pretty large. Let's keep going. Finishing up round 31. Chain 2 for the corner. Then we're going to have 1 in the front. It's the same spot that you've just used. Make sure you're not going back here. That takes care of the corner window. The next window is here for your back stitch. Then we're going to have 4 in the front, gets you to this little hole. One in the back, making that little heart. It's starting to look like a heart, half a heart, right? Then we're going to do 2 in the front. 1 and 2. And we've been doing 13 in the back, but this is the final side, so there's only room for 6 in the back. Ooh, a little bit tangly on my yarn here. 3 and 4, and the 5th one is at the top of the plus sign. Sixth one waiting here. Before we join it, we need to know the accent color tails have to be kept to the front. Joining it in the window here. 1, 2, 3. Moving on to round 32 with our main color to back. So it's just keeping these flaps apart again. It's still important to make sure that you are doing that, otherwise things will get twisted in a hurry, but it's easy when there's a big flap to keep apart. So using the accent color, the first thing it tells you, chain 3 in front. We're already in front, check. First stitch also in the front, check. The next 2 stitches are in the back. The problem with having these flaps is making sure that you're lining up the windows. So lie it down, make sure, find something that's a reference point, and get those windows lined up. So that way you know you're going through the proper window. It's going to be right above this plus sign. So grab there. We're going to do 2 back stitches. What you're actually doing, if you care to know, is creating another box. We're putting a box up here. So this is the bottom of the box. Then we're going to have 1 in the front, and 4 in the back. That's bringing our dark corners in, just stepping out, going on top of those boxes. Now I definitely am running out of yarn here. I'll show you how I change yarn. You can use it if you're changing to the same color skein, or if you have to change colors. Technically, when you're changing colors in interlocking crochet, you are going to see that through the windows. I'm not bothered with that in this project. I don't yet have a tutorial on proper color changes. Not really. None of my stuff have been designed for that. And this doesn't have the same color exactly, but that's what I'm going to use. So I leave a long enough tail that I can weave it in later. Sometimes I'll try finishing the stitch, but if you have too short of a tail, it's no good. So I know that I need this much yarn. I've done the first half of the double crochet, and now I have 2 loops left, and I'm just going to put my yarn. This was going to the ball, now it's going to a different color ball. I try to line them up that way, and I put my finger on here to keep the tension, and I just finish the stitch as if we were using this yarn the whole time. This loop will adjust tension as well. So now you have these 2 loose tails. Kind of keep them back here so that the tension is not too tight but not too loose. Chain 1, because that's what you do between double crochets, and just keep going with the pattern, which I have to double check where I was. So front 1, back 2, front 1, back 1, 2, 3, 4. So my next stitch is front. It is not exactly the same kind of yarn or the same weight. Technically they are both 4 weight, but this one I believe was Bernat. I'm not entirely sure. And this colorful stuff was definitely Super Saver from Red Heart. So they're not exactly the same. It's not going to affect things too much in my project. You're going to watch for that. So even sometimes the same brands with different colors can be very different. The next stitch is 1 in the back, then 1 in the front, because that's the heart. Maybe you already could guess that if you can see the little heart showing up. Then we're going to have 2 in the back, two in the front. This little piece here is waiting for those stitches. The final stitch is in the back. So this, I mean, it's not really doing anything. It's just counting my rows. So I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm going to find my stitch. stitch in the back, chain 1, that's the row. I do want to still mark that this, between this window here, this color one is my 30th row. So right here we're doing 32. That way I don't have to count them all. Now we turn it. We start with our corner. 1, 2. The first stitch is going in the back. It's going in the same place. My stitch marker is sort of in the way now. Oh, silly stitch marker. I was trying to be efficient. Okay. 1 in the back. The next 2 stitches are in the front. Make sure your windows are lined up. This hole, it goes right there on the corner. These 2 stitches have the bar kind of waiting for it. 1 and 2. Then we're going to have 2 in the back. Front, back, front, because of this little heart design. Four in the back. It's bringing that dark section from our corners, it's bringing it closer and closer to the middle. One in the front. Two in the back, they go right above the plus sign. We're creating the bottom of a box. Two in the front, these are our middle stitches. Now we'll be going mirror imaging. You can follow your stitches here. You can look back or you can read the pattern. Maybe you're following the chart. Maybe you are just following my video. I'm not really sure. We've got 2 stitches in the back. I pretty much never look at the chart. I draw it, I get my written instructions, and then I ignore it. It's too confusing for me. It takes me a lot of effort figuring out what the stitches are. 1 in the front. And 4 in the back. Oops. It's hard to get the right tension when your hands are so sweaty, but I think it's going to work out. I'm trying to be careful about not pulling too much, but really it just means more adjusting on my yarn. I think this is why people slow down in the hot summer months. Some of you live places where it's hot all the time and you never slow down. When do you slow down? Front, back, front. We're creating that heart. Two in the back. Two in the front. That back stitch right behind the corner goes into the window or into the second chain. chain 1 to finish your stitch. Maybe you can see it. This is what we're making. We're gonna turn our work now and keep going. Finishing up round 32. We're doing our corner first. Oh my goodness, yarn, come here. 1, 2 chains. That first back stitch is going in the same spot that you just used. And I'm definitely going to run out of yarn again. I knew I was. I was just using up some scrap yarns. All right. 1 stitch in the back, 2 in the front. Those are the ones that are waiting for you. Two in the back. Front, back, front for this little heart here. So I am getting quite low on my yarn. I think I can do this stitch here. Did I just do the first half and then this enough tail? I'm going to grab my other one. Maybe you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to try doing this bright fuchsia stuff I've got. Why? Because there's not much of it left and it kind of matches the purples in here. I don't know, maybe it's not the color I should be using, but it's definitely going to contrast well and be punchy with that black. That's what I was really thinking. So you can see I don't leave as much tail for that one because I can be more specific. These 2 ones here, these are now keeping the tension of that stitch. So you just have to kind of pull them, but not too tight, just to try and match the other stitches. The next stitch that we have is in the front. And those tails, they are secure enough for me to finish crocheting. When I come around to this stitch here, I'm going to have to be careful because it will pull on them. And definitely these tails need to be woven in back and forth 100 times or they'll come out. So this is just a temporary hanging out. After we do our back, front, back, the next is 4 in the back. I guess it was front, back, front, and then 4 in the back. You know what I'm saying. You've been doing all these sides. I'm sure that you are very capable of counting and figuring out these next parts. I'm not even sure if it's handy that I record this, but if you're still listening, if you're still watching, let me know that I am the coolest person you ever met. Or not met, however the case may be. It'd be fun to meet real people, not just online, but that's okay. So now we've got 1, 2, 3 spots available, and we are going to do 1 in the front and 2 in the back. Before we join our yarn, let's make sure that black one's not getting tangled. See the corner? You just pull it up and suddenly the black is out of the way. And my tension got weird there. It's weird when I'm trying to do the videos. Sometimes I hold the yarn weird. Switching to my other color. Using our black main color. We're on round 33. We don't have very many rounds left to go. We're getting very close to the end of this project. It's very exciting. For round 33, first it says chain 3 in back. We are in back. We're ready to go. The next stitch is in the front. You can see there's these spots here that are waiting. We're making a box, so maybe that'll help you. I'm not sure. We're going to put 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and then the next 6 stitches are all in the front. So we're going to create the side of the box and also this sort of dark spot that we're making along here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It gets you to this heart. Oops, my yarn did weird. Now we need to go behind the heart so that we can actually see it. So we've got 2 stitches behind. Then we're going to be in the front again, and this is another little heart, so we're doing 2 stitches in front, one in the back. That gets us that the little heart side, the V of the top of a heart, but we're doing it sideways. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying? Then we have 3 in the front. So we're going to go in this little box, 1 here, and then the corner stitch as well. Oops, I only grabbed 2. There we go. This blue stitch marker is telling me that this corner spot with the colored, that was 30, 10, 20, and 30. So that's why he's there, in case you don't know that. And I'm grabbing the second chain in my corner because it's available. It's there to see. And that is the first half of the side. Now we've got the asterisk telling us that we're going to do it for the next 3 sides, starting with our corner, which is chain 2. 1, 2. First stitch has to be in the front. It's at the same spot we just used. Can I get that same spot? There we go. We're going to do 3 front stitches. So that's 1. This is 2. Right in that little box is 3. It's the heart. It doesn't look like a heart yet, but it is going to be a heart. Then we've got 1 in the back so that the heart kind of pokes. It's got a little pokey thingy. I grabbed my yarn weird. Let me try again. Back stitch. There we go, much smoother. The next 2 stitches in the front. The next 2 stitches in the back. That way we can see the heart. Then we'll have 6 in the front. It gets you to that box. We're creating a box. This is kind of like the dark corner that's crouching into these boxes. This is 3. 4. 5. And 6. See, this is the side of the box. Oh, this yarn is so sticky in the heat. We're going to put, it's got brackets now because we're going to do back front, 1 more in the back. That's outside of the bracket, but just to give you a heads up what we're doing. The brackets are telling us to do it twice. Do back front and then repeat it. Back front. And then outside of the brackets, we still have another back stitch. Now you can guess what we're going to do is now 6 in the front. It's going to get us to this little heart. Now we're going to put 2 behind the heart wall. Whoops, my yarn did weird. 2 in front. One in the back, that's so that the heart can kind of stick out again. And the last 3 are in the front. 1 in the box, 1 beside it, and the corner. Chain 1 to finish off your stitch. That's the side. We're going to do it 2 more times. Finishing up round 33 using our main color, we're going to chain 2 for the corner. That first stitch is going down here, the same spot we just used, and we're going to have 3 in the front. So this is number 1 and 2. And 3 kind of goes in this box. Make sure you get the stitch. Then we've got 1 in the back. 2 more in the front. 2 in the back. This is where I had joined the colors, so maybe I should be weaving that in before I do the next color round, but I'm not going to. I'm going to show you how dangerous I can be. 6 in the front. Then we only have enough room to do 1 in the back and 1 more in the front. That'll get us to the end. Before we join it, we have to make sure that this colorful stuff is brought to the front. And then we can join this with a slip stitch. Chain 3 for the next round. Grab our pretty pink fuchsia magenta. I don't know what you call this. I like art, but color names are just so weird to me. Some people would call this chartreuse. Some people would call this chartreuse. It's one of those colors that has 2 definitions. Very different definitions. Very weird. Anyway, moving on. Now we're going to be using our accent color. We're on round 34. We're going to start with making sure the black, the main color, is at the back. Then our chain 3 here is at the front. That's just a double check we're in the right spot. The first 4 stitches are also in the front. Then we'll have 8 in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the next front stitch is where you're going to be making this heart. This is where I first changed the colors. If I pull on this stitch too hard, it'll loosen. These tails are not secure yet. They need to be woven in, back and forth, up and down, in and around, through the fibers, making sure that they're securely locked in. So this is the 8th in the back. Then we have a front, back, front, because we're making that heart. The last 2 stitches are in the back, one here on the top of the other double crochet, the next one right in the corner. It's easy for me to find that chain 2, so I do. Chain 1 to finish the stitch off. There we go. Time to turn it. Lost my hook. Get back here, hook. Chain 2 for the corner. Then we've got 2 stitches in the back. Of course, the first one is going into the same place that we just used. The next one goes in the next double crochet. Then we've got 1 in the front. Make sure your windows are lined up. It's important. We are joining it to this, the heart bottom. It's going to be front to make that go up higher. There we go. 1 in the back. One in the front. Then we're going to have 8 in the front, or sorry, 8 in the back, 8 in the back, 8 in the front, and then 8 in the back. It's not too hard to remember, but it is important to count to make sure you get in the right spots. You can see through the window when I have 2 colors that are different. In the little window you can see where they are actually joining. If you want to get rid of that, you would need to do this light color. You would have done like a half row so that it was shorter. I have a different video showing that on color changes. It uses my Moonlight on the City shawl. This video isn't really supposed to be about color changes. My yarn just happened to run out, that's all. And the color changes popping through there don't bother me, but if it bothers you, you're going to want to look at some other ways at changing colors. Oops. Okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the back. Now where this box starts and this dark section is, we need to put in the front to separate them. And we're actually going to put all of these in the front until we get back to the dark section. So it's 8, 8, and then 8 again. Back, front, and back. If that makes sense. Maybe it's too many words. I don't know. 1, 2, come on. And it's too hot to get my tension proper. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you were listening earlier in this video when I was telling you how hot it is. And I've just been crocheting for like hours and hours, and it is still hot. And in fact, it got hotter. The temperature gauge outside my kitchen window says 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 100. Is that 100 Fahrenheit? Which is just too hot for me. I'm a big baby. So that is the 8 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to do 8 in the back. So it goes here, the visual cue, we've passed 1 heart, now we've got this half heart done. We have to put a stitch in the front to get the wall up. Then 1 in the back because that's just the center of the heart. Another one at the front. And 2 in the back. So that's what it looks like. I'm gonna go around 2 more sides and see at the half side. Finishing up round 34, we're gonna start with our corner, 2 chains, then we're gonna have 2 in the back. The first one goes in that same spot we just used. It's handy seeing the 2 colors. Maybe I should do that in my tutorials better, more often. 2 in the back, there we go. Then we are going to put 1 in the front. It's for this heart. It's going to be a 2-toned heart, like this baby here. 1 in the back because that's the middle of the heart. Another one in the front. Then we have room for 8 in the back and then only 3 in the front. So kind of, I think you should by now be kind of used to the way that the final round gets split in half, right? It's the first round and the final, and not round, side. This is that stitch I changed colors in. So I'm going to be careful not to pull too hard, making sure that I'm holding that tail. Otherwise I could just pull it right out and that would be very sad. I'd have to undo a lot of work. And definitely when I go to weave it in, I'm going to be weaving the pink into the pink and the mint color into the mint color so that they are hidden. So if we're counting, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6. Oh goodness, it's just too hot. I'm just gonna whine about the heat the whole time. That was 7, this is 8. And then we can do our front stitches. It's gonna divide this dark section from the box. That's the first one. And then inside the box twice, for a total of 3 front stitches. And then to join this pink color, the accent color, it's already on this side of the black. The black is technically behind there, so we just join it. No worries about the other yarn. We will now worry about the other yarn because we're starting a new row or round, whatever. You're gonna be like, I've watched your videos so long, I'm used to you talking crazy. My voice and my words, they don't always come out the way I want them to. Could be a barrier to making videos, I suppose, but I guess I just sort of assume that you can understand what I mean. We are now on round 35 using our main color, which for me is black. First, we are going to have that chain 3. It's in the back. We are already in the back. Check. First stitch is a front stitch. We're making the side of the box. The next stitch goes in the back. Whoops, my tension is off because of the heat and trying to get everything in the video. 4 stitches in the front. Then we are going to have 1 in the back. Make sure there's enough here that you could get your windows mixed up. Okay, so make sure, lay it out, count the windows if you need to. Make sure that you're getting the right window with the stitch. 1 in the back. Then we'll have 5 in the front. It gets us to that heart. Then we'll have 2 in the back because we want the heart to be visible. Then we'll have 2 in the front. And our corner stitch is in the back. So this is where I get lazy because it's easier to just grab the whole chain space, but you could still find the second one if you wanted to be particular. I just use the window. And if you straighten everything out, that's what we've got so far. We now turn it. And of course we have to start with our corner. Where's my yarn? There we go. Chain 2 for the corner. The first stitch is in that back window again, just like the last one was. So if you straighten everything out, it's right in that window. Then we're going to have 2 in the front. Two in the back behind the heart. Five in the front. There's no good visual cue, so you should just count for your 5 stitches here in the front, okay? 3, 4, 5. This is in the back. Again, make sure your windows are lined up. There's enough back here that you can actually get them twisted. You could go through the wrong window and that would get everything twisty. So I find it easier to line it up and down. This box is locked in. This is the next one. This is the next one. If I pinch it, then I can grab this one easier. 1 in the back, then 4 in the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have brackets. They're going to tell us to do back front and again back front. Outside of the brackets, we still have another one in the back because this is mirror imaged. Just going to repeat everything. We're going to put 4 in the front. One, two, three, 4. Okay. Making sure your windows are all lined up so that you can get this stitch in the right spot for the one in the back. Then we have 5 in the front. Then we're going to put 2 in the back because that heart needs to be visible. Two in the front. That corner stitch in the back behind the window. Chain 1 to finish it off. Now we're going to repeat that for all the sides. Can you see it in the video? Not quite. I mean, if I kind of squish it together. Finishing up round 35, we are going to, of course, start with a corner, chain 2. Then we have 1 in the back. It's going to go in that same window that we just used. The next 2 stitches are in the front, so this is the window. Next window 1 and 2, they're both in the front. Then we have 2 in the back so that that pretty little heart can be seen. Five in the front. The 1 stitch in the back. Again, make sure that your windows are all lined up. This is obviously the stitch that we're going to use, but you need to make sure you're going through the right window. So keep everything lined up. If you're working on a table, it's sometimes easier to keep the windows all lined up. When you're sitting on the couch working on your lap, it's easy for those to get kind of twisted. 4 in the front. One stitch in the back, 1 stitch in the front. We're going to make sure that this accent color is all at the front. The tail that's got the loop and the working yarn all has to be at the front before we join it with a slip stitch to that first window that we had made. Now we're ready. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. Okay, this round 36 using our accent color. This is our final round with this color. Now I'm gonna have to change my yarn one more time. Using scrap, that's what happens. But this is gonna be the last round with their accent color. Here we go. The first thing, keep the main color to the back. Great, got it. Chain 3 in the front, yes. First stitch also in the front. Now the first stitch is part of that brackets. It says front and then back 2 times 2. So we did 1 stitch in the front. Now we're doing 2 in the back. And then we just read what's in the brackets again. We start at the beginning of the brackets. It says put 1 in the front and then put 2 in the back. The next 2 stitches are in the front. They attach to this kind of dash that we've got going on here. I don't know what you call it. The next 8 are in the back until we get here. This will be in the front and this will be in the back. So, I mean, counting is best, but that's the visual cue because it's handy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do want to still also make sure that your windows are being lined up. After a long stretch where it's a flap, make sure everything is lined up. 6, 7, 8. 1 stitch in the front and 1 in the back. The corner one, when they're like this, I just take the whole chain section, the whole corner, and go around it. So that's our first half side. We're gonna now do the actual side, a full side, whatever the words are. We're gonna start with our corner. Chain 2, 1 stitch in the back, 1 stitch in the front. So this is the corner window, then this one is here. 8 in the back. The visual cue is this little dash. We're going to put front stitches on the dash, but counting is best. 3, 4, oops, come on there, 5, 6, 7, 8. So like I said, we'll put 2 in the front here on this little dash kind of thing. Then we have 2 in the back. Then we're going to put 1 in the front to separate these dark section with the box that we've been creating. 2 in the back because we want to see the top of the box. Oh yeah, my string is very short. 2 in the front. And then it's a mirror, so we're going to do the same stitches in reverse order. So back 2. And this is going to be where I join new yarn. So this is kind of where I take my chances. I say, well, how short is it going to be if I do the next stitch? And it's going to be much too short. Thus is not enough tail. So that's why I rewind and I say, okay, I'll just do the first half of this stitch and I'll get some more yarn. It's also another little scrappy ball. That's fine. This is just what I had lying around. Might as well use it for something pretty. I just hook it on there, pull it through. It does pull on these tails a bit. I'll just pinch them, do my chain. The next stitch, if we were paying attention to our count, this is just the second back stitch that I had tried and then pulled apart. So these are loose. They need to be woven in. You know what I'm saying? We will take care of them when we're done crocheting. We will do it. We will. I will. We will. I will. I'll do it all by myself. 1 in the front. I'm just teasing. I hope you know I'm teasing. Some people, they don't know that I tease in my videos. I tease, okay? I just tease. We are now here. 1 in the front, 2 in the back, then 2 in the front. Can you hear the birds chirping outside? They're being loud. It's super hot today, but it's starting to cool off, so maybe the birds are like waking up from their slumber. I don't think they actually sleep through the heat. They probably just drown. It's so hot. So if you're following here again, now we have 8 in the back. That's what we're doing over here. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we have one in the front and one in the back. It's just our final little corner there. So now you got to do this again for 2 more sides. I'll finish it off with you in a second. Finishing up round 36, we only have this far to go, and then we're done with the accent color. Oh, it's so exciting. Chain 2 for the corner. First stitch is a back stitch in the same spot that we just did. Then if you line everything back up, the next stitch is a front stitch. It's going here. Then we have 8 in the back. I just posted a video on my Instagram page whining about the heat. It's so hot. I'm working in my office and I went to the kitchen to get a drink of water and I noticed that the thermometer outside my kitchen window says that it is 50 degrees Celsius. That is 120 degrees Fahrenheit just outside my kitchen window, and I'm cooking in here. We don't have air conditioner. I do have the window open here in the office trying to get a little breeze, and that's it. That's all I've got. It's hot. Very, very hot. So now you can connect the two events. If you saw that on Instagram and now you're seeing my video, that's when I was doing this. So if we were counting, we would have 8 stitches. If you're guessing and you're looking for the visual cue, it's this little dash here. We're going to put 2 in the front. 1 and 2. I don't think my color change is exactly how I had pictured it in my head, but it's all right. It's going to work just fine. Then we're going to move to the back again, making sure that everything is still lined up. You're not skipping stitches. I'm going to put 2 in the back. 1 in the front. And then 2 in the back. It's right on top of this box. Oop, there we go. Now this time when we join it, because it's our final round, I do think it's important to actually get that second chain. This was a chain 3. So, oh, I don't need to yarn over. I'm doing a slip stitch. Normally I just grab the window. Because it's the final round and we're not going to be using this again, I do feel like getting that second chain for the slip stitch and locking it in like exactly where it belongs is better. But that's just my opinion. You can use the window if you prefer. We're going to cut it. You can have, I usually do about this long. How long is that? I don't know. I could get a thingy-dooey measuring tape. What is that, 5 inches? It's about 5 inches, I suppose. And then I just pull it really tight, and I will weave it in back through the white when I'm all done. But I'm going to move on to my final round. This is going to be round 37. So this was a 40 window square originally, and I adjusted it to be made from the center out, which means that you're only counting from the center up. And because that middle dot counts as nothing, and then the first color ones counts as 0, it actually only gets to round 37 on the outside. We have the chain 3, it's in the back. The next 3 stitches are along the top of this box. They're all in the back. We are going to show off the purple, and once I get to the other side, it'll be white. That's just how it goes. I ran out of yarn. I was using some scraps. That's kind of fun. And then we are going to do 2 in the front. Sometimes I have a really long intro where I'm trying to figure out where I was in the pattern. I look up and I make it seem effortless, but my eyes are kind of doing both. Glance at the video, glance at this, glance at that. So we got 1 and 2. I hope the wind isn't too loud on my microphone. It is a nice strong breeze and I definitely need it to cool me down. We're going to put 1 in the back. This is going to be a half heart. You can sort of remember from how we've done things before, the heart's going up here and it gets cut off. It's like it grew out of the project. It's done like that on purpose. Hopefully you don't complain. If you think it's cuckoo cuckoo, just keep it to yourself. I don't know. Okay, where was I? Okay, back 3, front 2, back 1. Then we're going to have front 10. It's going to go all the way across, front 10, and then here we'll have 2 in the back, the corner one and this in the heart. So all of these here are in the front. If you watched my tutorial video on doing interlocking crochet from the center out, you'll know that on the final round I did a very strange way of finishing the stitches that kind of locks the 2 layers together more. Right here you can see there's a flap. So in the tutorial video on my final round, I lock these together a little bit more. I'm not interested in doing that on every project, so that's why I'm not doing it here. But that is an option. If you wanted to do the stitches a different way, you could. We are now going to do 2 in the back. I think you might be able to hear my kitty cat whining. He doesn't like the heat too much either. Mostly he doesn't like that I'm using my hands and not petting him. He's an attention hog, like most kittens, right? That's the side. We're gonna finish it off here. This is now the full side. We're going to start with the corner. 1, 2. The first 2 stitches are in the back because that's the little point of the heart, and then the side part of the heart. Then we're going to put 10 in the front. The visual cue is going to go all the way across here, and it's going to drop into this little square as well. Okay, so on this side of the heart, we're going to make 10 stitches. This is 9. The 10th stitch is kind of in that box because it's turning it into the start of another heart. Then we're going to have 1 in the back because the heart has a bump that sticks out. 2 in the front. Then we're going to go 7 in the back. It goes all the way here until we get to the darks kind of corner thingy. You can count them, of course, but that's the visual cue. I think it's fun. I don't know. My yarn changing, it's got to be woven in. That's next on the list after I finish recording this. So that's 7. Now we're going to do this again, but in the opposite direction. So we've got 2 in the front. One in the back, then 10 in the front. It's going to go all the way across until this corner heart. The last 2 stitches are both in the back. One here. One in the actual corner. So we gotta do 2 more sides. This is what it's gonna look like. It's getting big. It doesn't really fit in the camera, but I'll show it to you when we're done. Okay, we're just gonna finish this up. It's super exciting. Round 37, the final half side. We're gonna start with our corner, chain 2. Then we put 2 in the back. The first one goes right in the corner, just like we just did. Then the next one right behind that heart wall so that we can see the little heart in the corner. There he is, there's the heart. Then we're gonna put 10 in the front. Oops, kind of missed the stitch. Try again. I'm getting too excited. Oh yeah, this has been a project that has been ongoing for me because I only can record videos when the kids are not at home because they're too noisy. So it just sits on the desk and I do a little bit here and a little bit there, and now it's finally getting done. That's exciting for me. It means that I can move on to the next project. So if we were counting, we would have 10 in the front. If you've been doing your sides, you know that it's going to go to this little heart, half heart that gets shown here. There's stitch number 10. Then we're going to put 1 in the back. 2 in the front. 1, 2. Three in the back. It's behind this little box. And the accent color tail is non-existent because this is our last round. So normally we'd be worried about the accent color tail, but this time all we need to do is join it. Just like the previous one, I really prefer to use that second chain just for the last round. The other ones I use the box, but the last one I feel like it needs to be locked in more securely. So that's how I do it. And I'm not going to chain 3 because we're done. Oh my goodness. If you wanted to do a locking border, now would be your chance. I'm not going to. I don't mind the flippy flappies, and I'm going to be, you could use this as like a pillow for the front or the back of a pillow form. You could join it to other squares like a blanket. That's what mine's going to do because I have a lot of these random squares and they need friends. So when I join it, I will join the black layer with the other main color layer from the other squares. And then at the back, it'll just have this little gap and it won't matter. Not in my opinion. So now I need to weave in my tails. Not just these ones, but where I've joined yarn, they need to be securely woven. And this one, if you haven't done it yet, make sure your magic circle is very securely woven. It will come apart if you don't do it. So give me a minute and I will weave my tails in. It's finished. Look at that. Now, you can tell that I ran out of color and I had to join white and purple and mint. This is the back. It's done. Now, if you're interested, this is the comparison. Interlocking version versus mosaic version. They are technically the same pattern. I drew one chart and then later I took away these little mesh dots. So this one is solid. That's the difference. These are worked from the center out. You can also work these from the bottom up. The interlocking one will look almost exactly the same. The mosaic one does not have those dots removed, which means that in this section where it's all solid, if you do the bottom up version, you'll have little dots created by doing stitches. So this is obviously, you know, when it's interlocking, it's a mesh. But when you're doing a mosaic, you would have like double crochet and then a single crochet. So you'd see the other color, double crochet, single crochet. So that's still on the bottom up version, just so you know. I can crochet that and show it to you too. I don't have that sample here in my hand. So that is that. Ta-da!